Parents of Reddit, at what point did you realize you raised a monster? Ex-teacher here. My own kids are far from monsters. But I've met some. When I taught preschool kindergarten, there was a kid who was banned from IMCA camps for his behavior. And they had never banned someone before. He brought a plastic, thankfully, knife to school and threatened to cut all of us teachers. Told other kids he would burn their homes down after first setting fire to all their toys. He heard me calming another student who was afraid of bees and mentioning I'm allergic but have never been stung because I don't scare bees. He came up to me. Told me he was going to put a wasp nest in my car. Lock me in it. And watch me die. He was one of only 2 students expelled from that school in the 15+ years I was associated with it. His mother still didn't realize her son was a monster. She said she ate lead paint when pregnant with him, pica, but claimed he was just fine. Often parents just cannot or refuse to see their children for what they are. I was in court as a plaintiff waiting for my case. They did all the criminal stuff first. One of the cases was this high school senior who had beat the out of his 100 pounds 5 feet 0 inches mom. He was crying as she was refusing to have him home on bail. She was scared shitless of this kid. This was an upper middle class family and the kid looked like he was on his way to a good college. He kept saying he did it every time he didn't get what he wanted. Judge sent him to Monmouth County Jail. Not a nice place for an 18-year-old skinny nebbish. Daughter wrote you and mama dies with her figure scratched out on a piece of paper the other day when we wouldn't let her make lemonade. She's 8. She's gone on rages and destroyed her room before. Including throwing furniture around. Not looking forward to her as a teenager. When he sold my car for drugs Whenever this question comes up, I am always reminded of this post. https://www.reddit. Maraf Mitchest comment /1 jatvd I am not proud of my son. UTM source equals amp and UTM medium equals and UTM content equals post body. Edit. You may also want to try a serious tag next time. Not my son, but there was a kid in the playground that my kid was playing with. He was about 5 or 6. If he didn't get his own way, he started screaming and hitting other kids at the playground. I advised my son not to play with him, talk to him since he was being a little. Didn't say that to me, kid. The kid's mum was in the playground but ignoring her son and loudly playing Pokemon Go. That kid is likely going to turn into a monster seemingly since he is ignored. Not a parent but a sibling. My sister has become a vain, selfish, unloving sociopath. She treats my mum as a slave and my mum loves her too much to notice. My mum was talking to her. She got bored and said, quote, I can leave now. My mum replied with something like, you can't talk to me like that. You need to respect me, to which my sister replies, I have no respect for that cleans my knickers. Leave. I'm in shock. If I said that to my mum I'd be slapped, but she turns a blind eye. My sister abandoned her kids a few times. Just dropped them off with babysitters and skipped town. My mom got drunk one night and said sometimes I think the world would have been better off if I drowned her in the tub. So, yeah. Not my kid but niece. Went to the fridge. Took a glass of OJ. And dumped a massive amount of ketchup in it before proceeding to drink it. I couldn't sleep that night. Op really should have added a serious tag. This whole page is about to go to. I'm not done raising her, so I still hold on to hope that we can turn things around. My middle child is 10. She becomes completely uncontrollable when things are not going her way. She tells me she hopes I die. She has told me that she is going to go to school and tell them I beat her so she can go to foster care. Her older sister struggles with depression and cuts herself. She often tells her she hopes she kills herself. She hopes she cuts too far one time. She will go outside and scream at the top of her lungs. She has hit me. Spit in my face. Breaks things. Destroys the house. My ex-husband was extremely abusive towards me. They saw him beat me. It was very, very bad. Once we were divorced, he was court-ordered visitation. It wasn't so bad at first. He mostly just dumped them off on his family members. But as they got older, his drug abuse and untreated mental issues got worse. He turned his abuse towards them. He never hurt them physically, but the mental abuse was there. They haven't seen him in over 2 years. I told the judge I would go to jail before I'd allow them near him again. They both had a pretty rough childhood. I'm a recovering alcoholic, so my own issues played into it. I was never abusive, but I was definitely not there for them like I should have been. I was more of a friend than a parent. I'm sober now. We're all in therapy. I really hope that by doing these things that we can make things right. I haven't given up. I still have hope. But it's really hard sometimes. My sister is raising 2 monsters. My niece and nephew. The whole family knows. Even their parents know, but neither one of them wants to be a parent and discipline or give consequences for their monsters' actions. My nephew at 7 yelled at my sister at Subway when she asked him to pick out his chips. He screamed, "Shut up you. I want to choke you," then proceeded to kick the customer nearest him in the back of the leg. My sister just laughed it off with a defeated, embarrassed look on her face. At my daughter's 3rd birthday party, my niece, 8 at the time, realized she was wearing the jeans she doesn't like. Screamed over the birthday song at her parents, told them to fix it immediately. Well, they couldn't. They had no change of clothes. She flipped out, grabbed the birthday cake and threw it on the ground, then ripped her pants off, threw a present on the ground and stomped all over it. No apology. No consequences. My sister offered to pay to replace the gift. I told her I'd rather she paid to send her kids to therapy. She called me and said I didn't love my niece and nephew. They're in their teens now and still throw fits if you don't do what they want or let them win, etc. And my brother had his son. Monster nephew started beating him up around 3. Monster was 9. Monster gave the little boy a black eye. Only time he got his kicked, and after that it stopped. And the only people my monster niece and nephew are genuinely scared of and behave around are my African American sister-in-law and my Mexican brother-in-law. They've never done anything to them. They're just not white. Anyway, we have secret family get-togethers without inviting them because they always ruin them. We honestly don't like living like this, but we also don't like spending X amount of hours listening to them whine, scream, and demand things while breaking and destroying our property, and you can't say anything to them and their parents won't say anything. It's upsetting. I dread their future. When my son's Tamagotchi died, and I was sad, because I realized I was the one taking care of it while he was at school and in bed. My son steals my wife's eyeglasses while she is reading on her phone. She can see up close fine, but anything past about 3 feet is a complete blur. He knows this. And knows he can get away with taking things off of counters and drawing on things if she can't see him. He's 3. My little brother is autistic. Love him to death, but growing up he had no idea about morals. We had a portable DVD player as kids with a load of DVDs and a couple of Nintendos. He loved them and would always giggle watching them, but one day when he was 4 he thought it would be hilarious to throw them all out of the window and smash them. Another time when we had moved houses, a stray cat was always wandering around. We fed him and sprayed him and our grandmother adored him. I think my brother would have been 6 or 7, but we walk into the garden to see him swinging the cat by its tail in circles, giggling in fits. Now that he's older he'll still kick up and have fits, but at least he knows what things are bold. My son asked me how long he was obligated to interact with me. When my youngest moved out, I had always had difficulty with her, but once she was gone I realized how much of a bully she is. Recently she got angry when my partner told her to not guilt trip me and flipped out, called him the scum of the earth, telling me I am a bad mom for being with him when he is so awful to her, saying really horrible things about his children. The thing is that my sweetie is incredible and everyone loves him, except her, because he called her on her bullshit and stood up for me. I can't even tell you how many times I have cried because of things she has said or done. My oldest daughter is a sweetheart and they are polar opposites. I am concerned there are some mental health issues right now because she has increased her behaviors. Unfortunately she is off on her own, so I can't do anything but ask her to talk to someone. And she looked me dead in the eyes and poured out her cup of orange juice on the ground. It's age appropriate boundary exploration. But still. Monstrous. When Thing A was arguing with younger Thing B and said, well, I'll hit you, and said Mom did it. When he got turned down for art school. When she learned this lovely phrase, Mommy, I love you, but how about you don't say I is little. I is basically grown up. Full stop. She was just barely over 3. She was grown up because she fed the dog a treat. She has developmental issues, mimics adult words rather than use typical kid ones, so her unusual candor has only gotten wackier. I had to buy security cameras because he was stealing, throwing parties, doing drugs in my home, etc. Looked right in the camera and flipped me off while I was at work. My heart fell. The tentacles were a big giveaway. I'll ask my 18-month-old if she poo-pooed and she'll smile and say, then when I put her on the changing table and take off her diaper, no poop. Not my kid. But my partner's adult sister is a real handful. A panoply of vaguely diagnosed mental illnesses including bipolar and psychosis. She's on income assistance, which helps, but she goes from morbidly depressed in the winter to wildly high in the summer. We let her move in to get herself out of debt, which she did. But now she's back in another hole. He picks bad boyfriends. The last of which we had to get a restraining order against after he threatened our children when we extricated her from his abusive grasp. And the worst part is that the cycle is never ending. It's been this roller coaster for 20 years. And we're really tired. She's 14 for life. And not the good kind of 14 years old. This thread is free birth control. Not that we need it anymore. In public he always pretends like he doesn't know me, and at home I only see him if he is hungry. I recommend to not get a cat because mine is an asshole. Probably around the time the villagers arrived with torches and pitchforks. I have this story where a bunch of my way younger cousins and me were watching Bambi. One of them started to cry when Bambi's mother died. And another one told him, "Don't worry, cousin. She sure ended in good pote." Ouch. I tried to be a good mother. Really I did. Looking back, the deck was pretty stacked against us from the start. Me and my son grew up poor as saw, and I mean really poor as saw, in the back end of nowhere. And I had to work all the time. I was basically a slave. I certainly got treated like one. For childcare, huh? Like I could afford that. I used to leave my boy with the owner of the local store. Fat Jewish guy I got to know. And he did his best looking after him in exchange for the little guy helping out. I suppose it was child labor. But what can you do? One day, I got lucky when some rich out-of-towners suffered a breakdown on the edge of town and came into the store looking for help. They were really impressed with my son's resourcefulness and know-how. And they were obviously upset at his potential being squandered, so they offered to fund his education. The only catch was it would have to be at boarding school. Because there was no schools nearby worth a damn. I knew I would miss him like hell. But this was his big chance. I jumped at it. But when he came back, God, he had changed. The next time I saw him I'd been kidnapped by sand people. And my sweet boy who wouldn't hurt a fly when he was young killed every single one with the slight some idiot had given him. Men, women and children. And he slaughtered them like animals. SMDH. When they started asking for tree fitty all the damn time. When my daughter was 3 she had a preoccupation with playing with my ears. One day she said, "Daddy, cut off your ears because I want to eat them." Hannibal Lecter right there, ladies and gents. When after taking care of her chrysalis and defended it from the Terrans and Protoss, she took over the Zerg swarm and became a genocidal tyrant murdering billions. When he started to run crawl around the house and hiss at me. The damn cat. When he started growing extra limbs and demanding sustenance. Anyone else feel like a good boy girl after reading this thread? When I read his internet history. When they didn't use a serious tag. They put the milk in before the tea. He come in through the door screaming and holding a bag of candy, and I said, "Daniel, stop eating that, you gonna rot your teeth," and he piffed one right at my face. I look at him out my other eye and he has this look like oh and ran for it, and I said, "I'm gonna whoop you, Daniel, you shithead," and he jit in his car and drove home, so I call him, leave a message. "Daniel, I'm at the emergency room for my eye, but it was a trick." When we got to the hospital I was still at home eating chips. When he said he wanted to wee on a dead bird. When nobody wanted to see Marshall no more. When he jumped into the lake and said they wouldn't come out unless I gave them $3. 50 years of academy training. Wasted. My kid puts ketchup on oatmeal and bananas. When he grew blue fur and raided the cookies in the pantry. 4 weeks ago I asked my son to take his mother to the doctor. He never showed and turned off his phone. Didn't hear from him for 2 weeks. When I called him and asked him to come by, he didn't, again and again turned off his phone. 4 days ago his daughter was born. He called his grandparents, his friends, and posted it all over social media. We found out this morning when someone told us they saw the pictures on Facebook. There were a lot of signs, but the biggest red flag was that he asked me for $3.50. There was this one time my 4-year-old was playing Minecraft with me. I foolishly let him on my world, which I had spent many months on building a lot of different things. He comes along after the lecture of destroy what you want as long as it isn't mummy's stuff. He walked straight up to a massive white mansion I built, looked me dead in the eye and started knocking blocks out like the little smartass he is at times. My heart was actually racing at this point. Wounding. I told him to stop in a panic like 4 times before I bothered to actually get up and physically take the controller from him. My partner just sat and pissed himself. There was another story with my 2-year-old daughter. I rescued 6 goldfish from my work as they were going to kill them. Took them in the tank home. 3 or so weeks later, my partner went for a wee and I popped into my bedroom to grab something. Whilst walking back through I hear my daughter's name followed by "put it down." I stand in the door to my living room to see her throw a goldfish back into the tank that she had pulled out and wanted to hold. No fish were harmed, luckily. Cannot say that I didn't laugh at her innocence. I think my kids definitely have their moments, IA. If you can find the story on here, I'm not proud of my son, that one's a doozy. When he while in his jumper, it was a blowout. And he proceeded to jump his own into the carpet. Mine is not a monster and never will be. I'm confident, but he is way more comfortable lying to me than is healthy. His first full sentence was, "Me want cookies," when she ordered pineapple on pizza.